Imagine an ancient blueprint that, well, it dictates not just your path to spiritual liberation, but whether or not you're lactose intolerant.
Right, which is incredibly specific.
Yeah, it's a map that predicts your odds of getting a promotion right alongside your odds of getting kidnapped. And it even dictates whether you prefer spicy or bland food.
It really covers everything.
It does. So today on the deep dive, we are looking at a system that claims human existence is not just a series of, random chaotic events.
Exactly.
Instead, it argues that every single aspect of your reality is heavily compartmentalized into 12 highly specific cosmic rooms. We're talking about the 12 astrological houses.
And, if you're listening to this right now and thinking, oh, this is just about checking the back of a newspaper for your daily sun sign, prepare to have that entire perspective flipped upside down.
Oh, completely flipped.
So,
Because this is so much deeper than just, oh, I'm a Leo or I'm a Taurus.
it is a completely different paradigm. What we're exploring in these source materials is, it's a structural framework.
Okay.
In popular culture, people fixate on the sign, like you said. But the sign is just the flavor. The house is the actual arena.
It's the stage where it all happens.
Exactly. It's the where.
Mm.
Where does the action of your life take place? Where do you experience sudden wealth? Where do you encounter chronic illness?
Or where do you find your absolute highest philosophical truth?
Yes. The sources we've gathered, they break down human existence from those lofty spiritual peaks all the way down to the gritty, mundane details like, paying off a debt or fighting with a sibling.
Which is an incredibly bold claim for any system to make, right? To say, hey, we've taken the entirety of the chaotic human experience and neatly packed it into 12 boxes.
It's a massive claim. And every human experience is categorized into these 12 distinct domains.
And the sheer density of the notes we have on this is staggering. I mean, we've got pages of associations.
You really do.
So I think the only logical way to process this, to really understand the architecture of this cosmic real estate, is to just start at the very beginning.
That makes the most sense.
We need to walk through the front door of the mansion. Let's start with the foundation of the self. The first house, which the texts also refer to as the Lanya.
The Lanya, yeah. So the Lanya is the undisputed anchor of this entire system. You really can't understand anything else in the chart without understanding the first house.
Because it's the starting line.
Exactly. It represents the starting point. It's the physical birth, the actual emergence of the individual into the world. And the very first thing our sources emphasize about the first house is that it dictates your livelihood.
Okay, your livelihood.
Yeah, the term used in the text is ajivika. It shows exactly where your money will come from. The notes are unequivocal here. A strong Lanya indicates a strong, reliable livelihood.
Okay, let me pause you right there because I want to make sure I'm really wrapping my head around this.
Sure.
When we say livelihood, are we just talking about like a 9-to-5 job? Or is it something deeper than that?
It is much deeper than a job title. Ajivika isn't just your 9-to-5. It's the fundamental mechanism through which you secure your survival in the material world.
Oh, wow, okay.
It's the core energy you output just to sustain your physical form. And this makes perfect sense when you consider what else the first house governs.
Which is what?
Well, it rules your educational inclination and your raw intellect. But perhaps most importantly, the sources explicitly state that the first house indicates whether you are inherently optimistic or pessimistic.
See, this is where I find the ancient text so fascinating because that feels incredibly modern in its psychology.
Right. It really does.
If we think about the first house as the architectural blueprint of a person, it dictates the shape of everything that follows. It's your physical body, yes, but it's also the lens through which that body perceives reality.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see why a strong lodja, a strong first house, equals a good livelihood.
Because the lens shapes the reality.
Yes. The lens through which you view the world fundamentally shapes your material reality.
Let's say your foundational self, your first house, is built on a deeply pessimistic lens.
You're going to see everything as a problem. Right. You're going to perceive opportunities as threats. You might self-sabotage your educational inclinations. Your intellect might be really sharp, but it's clouded by a baseline assumption that things will fail.
And so your livelihood suffers.
Consequently, your ajivika, your livelihood, is compromised. Contrast that with an optimistic lens, where the intellect is geared toward growth and possibility.
The livelihood flourishes because the foundation of the self believes it can.
Exactly. Your worldview quite literally pays your bills, according to this system.
That is wild. But there's another detail in the notes for the first house that it really threw me off.
Oh, what's that?
It says the first house provides clues about your married life. Now, if this is the house of the absolute self, the singular I, why on earth are we getting clues about a partnership here?
Well, because you can't separate the partnership from the entity that enters into it.
Okay, fair point.
Think of it this way. If the first house is the front door of your life, anyone who wants to live with you has to walk through that specific door.
Ah, I see.
The baseline traits of your first house, your optimism, your pessimism, the circumstances of your birth, those are the unchangeable raw materials you bring into a marriage.
So it's setting the rules of engagement.
Right. The first house sets the parameters for what kind of partnership you're even capable of sustaining.
That makes a lot of sense. You can't merge two lives if one of the lives isn't structurally sound to begin with.
Precisely.
So we've walked through the front door. We have our self, our intellect, our basic worldview, and our means of securing survival. But a blueprint alone doesn't survive in the real world.
No, it doesn't.
It needs fuel. It needs material sustenance to keep going. Where does this system account for the actual consumption of the physical body?
That necessity creates the next domain. We transition from the self to what the self accumulates. So welcome to the second house.
The second house.
Yes, referred to in the text as Kutumbhava, Sanskarbhava, and Dhanbhava.
Right, and Dan translates to wealth, correct?
It does, yes.
The notes say this house governs Achal Sampati, which means fixed assets, as well as splendor, or Vaibhava.
Exactly.
It also gets incredibly specific about the physical body, stating it represents the right eye. And, circling back to that hook from the beginning of the deep dive, it governs your palate preferences, literally whether you prefer spicy food or bland food.
Yes, it's really granular.
Yeah.
The second house is fundamentally about consumption and accumulation. You're gathering resources to sustain the first house.
Like hoarding supplies in the pantry?
Right. You're gathering fixed assets, land, gold, savings, to create a buffer between you and the harshness of the world.
Yeah.
And you're consuming food, which is why the palate is located here. Does your body crave the fire and stimulation of spicy food, or the soothing, easy digestion of bland food? This house measures what you take into yourself.
Okay, but here is where I am going to push back hard because there is a massive, glaring contradiction in these notes.
Let's hear it.
The text explicitly states that the second house is a Marak Pav, which translates to a house of death.
Yes, it does.
Wait, I'm building wealth? I'm eating food according to my palate. I'm securing my survival and surrounding myself with splendor and fixed assets. How does the ancient text justify labeling the very things keeping me alive as a house of death?
I know, it sounds counterintuitive.
Isn't that totally contradictory?
It seems contradictory until you look at the biological and philosophical mechanics of existence. What's fascinating here is how the ancients understood the concept of entropy.
Entropy, okay.
Think about what the second house represents. Accumulating, eating, preserving. Over time, accumulation and consumption take a massive physical toll on the body.
I'm trying to follow the logic. Are you saying the act of eating is what kills us?
In a way, yes. Every single time you consume a meal, whether it's spicy or bland, your body has to work to digest it.
Right, there's a biological process.
There's a metabolic cost to processing food. There's oxidative stress at a cellular level. The very act of sustaining life burns through your vital life force.
Wow, okay.
And it is the same with wealth and fixed assets.
The stress of managing the wealth.
It's exactly. A Chalsampati, fixed assets, they require maintenance, protection, taxation. Splendor, Vaibhava, requires energy to project and defend.
So the more you have, the more it weighs you down.
The more you accumulate in the second house, the heavier the burden on the first house. The things that sustain us are simultaneously the things that slowly tether us to our mortality.
That is so bleak.
The ancient texts are incredibly unsentimental about this. They recognize that the house of sustenance is inextricably linked to the house of death because the material world slowly consumes us as we consume it.
Wow. That is a heavy, heavy realization for the listener to sit with. You eat to live, but the act of processing that food, of hoarding those resources, is essentially what ages you.
Yes.
You are literally burning your wick to keep the flame alive.
It is the ultimate paradox of physical reality.
Okay, so we've built the self in the first house, we've gathered our resources, eaten our food, and accepted the heavy burden of mortality in the second house.
Right.
But we can't just sit in the house eating and looking at our bank accounts. At some point, the energy we've consumed has to move. We have to interact with the immediate world outside our front door.
And that necessity pushes us right into section 2 of our journey through the astrological architecture, which is action, comfort, and creation. We arrive at the third house, known as the Parakrama Bhava.
The third house. The notes describe this as the house of courage, experiential learning, and siblings or co-borns.
Yes.
It also governs the chit, which is translated here as the subconscious mind. We are looking at hobbies, short journeys, modes of transportation, documentation, media, and writing.
So Parakrama translates broadly to valor or courage. This is where we see the very first spark of outward exertion.
Moving from the inside to the outside.
Exactly. The first house is the self, the second is what we eat, and the third is what we do with that energy. It is the impulse to reach out into the unknown.
And the physical associations here are incredibly specific and honestly quite poetic when you think about them.
They really are.
The texts list the lungs, respiratory health, the nose, the shoulders, the arms, and the hands. It is literally known as the house of handwriting and debate. It represents conscious listening and the ability to synthesize information.
If we look closely at those physical markers, there is a beautiful symmetry with the conceptual meaning of the house. What do the shoulders, the arms, and the hands do?
They grab things.
Right, they're the biological tools we use to reach out and manipulate the world around us. We push, we pull, we build, we fight.
And breathing, the lungs and the nose.
Exactly. The lungs expand and contract, constantly negotiating with the outside atmosphere. It is an active, rhythmic engagement with the world.
Taking in air, pushing it out.
Yeah, and conceptually, writing, engaging with media, participating in debate, and synthesizing information, that is how our mind reaches out and interacts with the world.
So courage, in the context of the third house, isn't necessarily just about, like, putting on armor and going to war.
Not at all. Courage is the bravery required to express your subconscious mind, the chit.
Okay, I like that.
It takes courage to put pen to paper and write something for others to read. It takes valor to engage in a debate, to truly listen consciously to an opposing viewpoint and synthesize that information.
Even just taking a short trip.
Yes, taking a short journey into an unfamiliar neighboring town is an act of micro-courage. The third house represents the daily bravery of simply participating in the external world.
And siblings are grouped in here too, I suppose because they're our first peers.
Precisely.
The first people we have to negotiate with, debate with, and share our immediate environment with.
They are our first sparring partners in the arena of experiential learning.
It's a very active, kinetic energy, reaching out with your hands, reaching out with your lungs through the breath, reaching out with your mind through debate.
It is very busy.
But let's be honest, after all that reaching and fighting and communicating, you get exhausted.
You definitely do.
The body and the mind can only sustain the parakrama, that outward courage, for so long. You need to retreat. You need to rest.
Which naturally leads us to seek shelter. We retreat from the external world of the third house and sink into the profound internal sanctuary of the fourth house, the Sukh house.
Sukh meaning contentment. I have to say, looking at the notes, this sounds like the most comfortable room in the entire cosmic mansion.
It's definitely the coziest.
It represents domestic comforts, the mother or a mother-like figure, and a deep love of the homeland.
It is the ultimate psychological and physical resting place. The fourth house is the deepest point of the chart, the absolute bottom, representing midnight. It's where you are entirely hidden from the public eye.
The analogy used in the text here is fascinating. It symbolizes the chair on which a king sits.
The king's chair, yes.
The notes say that individuals holding a dominant, chosen chair, meaning decision-making power and a good, secure position in life, have a very strong fourth house.
Right.
But alongside this kingly power, it governs residential properties, being self-made, hotels, resorts, agriculture, and sleep, and cows.
Yes, cows.
The text explicitly mentions cattle and cows. If I had to describe this to the listener, it's like the throne room and the bedroom rolled into one, but located on a farm.
It might seem like a random assortment of items to modern ears, but this raises an important question. Why are the mother, emotional contentment, the queen's chair, sleep, real estate, and cows all grouped together in the ancient mind?
I'm guessing it has to do with feeling safe.
It has to do with absolute nourishment and groundedness. Think about the progression.
Okay.
The mother is our very first home. She is the original source of sukh, of contentment and safety.
The ultimate comfort.
Exactly. As we grow, our physical home, our real estate, and our homeland become our adult versions of the mother's embrace. They are where we retreat to sleep and regenerate.
And the cows, where do they fit in?
Well, in ancient agricultural societies, cattle were the ultimate symbol of domestic security. If you had cows, you had milk, you had fuel, you had wealth.
You were set.
You were immune to starvation. The cow was the mother figure of the agricultural economy. So cattle, real estate, and the mother all provide the exact same energetic function. They insulate you from the harshness of the outside world.
That makes the king's chair analogy make sense, too. You can't be a calm, effective leader. You can't sit securely in your decision-making power if you don't have a secure base to return to.
Exactly. The physical body parts associated with the fourth house drive this home perfectly.
The chest. Right.
Yes, it governs the chest region and the upper heart. And it is associated with illnesses related to that area, such as breast cancer.
Wow.
The chest is the center of emotional gravity. It is where we physically feel grief, comfort, and love. If you sit securely on the king's chair of your own life, you are deeply rooted in your fourth house. Your heart is protected.
It is a beautiful image, but human nature dictates that we can't stay resting forever.
No, we get restless.
Once you have that secure base, once you have slept deeply in your comfortable real estate and absorbed the nourishment of the mother, what happens next? You get bored.
You get inspired.
Right. You want to create something of your own. You want to take a risk. And that brings us to a massive shift in energy. We open the door to the fifth house.
The fifth house, known as Santan Bhav, Purva Punya Bhava, and Buddhi Bhava. This is where the resting state of the fourth house explodes into creation and intellect.
Now, listener, here is where it gets really, really interesting because the source notes group some wild things together in this room.
It's a very eclectic mix.
Let's look at the list. The fifth house governs fertility issues and children, or Santan. It governs mental intellect, buddhi, and managing day-to-day affairs. Okay, sure.
Makes sense so far.
But it also governs love affairs. And it governs speculation and the stock market, and mantra chanting.
It is quite the leap from the quiet comfort of the fourth house.
It's a massive leap. Why on earth are love affairs, the stock market, and ancient spiritual mantras all sitting in the exact same cosmic room? I mean, I'm struggling to find the through line here.
To find the through line, we have to look past the superficial descriptions and analyze the underlying mechanics of these actions.
Okay, what are the mechanics?
What is the fundamental nature of a love affair?
It's passion. It's totally unpredictable.
It is an emotional speculation. You are taking a massive risk with your heart, investing your emotions into another person for a potential, unverified, future return of happiness.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, what is the stock market?
Financial speculation.
Exactly. You are risking your accumulated resources, the fixed assets from your second house, for a potential, unverified future gain. And what is mantra chanting?
I suppose, spiritual speculation.
It is the ultimate spiritual leap of faith. You are investing massive amounts of mental focus, intellect, and devotion into reciting a sound, trusting in a spiritual or energetic return that you cannot physically see.
That makes so much sense.
The unifying theme of the entire fifth house is risk, devotion, and mental conception.
Speculating on love, speculating on money, investing spiritual energy into a mantra, it all requires the exact same psychological architecture.
It does.
You have to be willing to leap into the void and trust that your creation will yield a result.
Precisely. Whether you are conceiving a child, conceiving an artistic project, or conceiving a financial portfolio, it requires intense speculative mental energy.
And that takes a toll, I imagine.
And because this energy is so highly charged, the fifth house is also deeply related to mental strain. The notes explicitly link this house to neurodivergence, autism, mental disorders, and the sheer cognitive load required to manage the chaos of day-to-day affairs.
That makes total sense, because if you're constantly speculating, constantly risking, your mind is literally never resting.
Right.
And the physical associations here are quite telling. Blood pressure issues, the stomach, the upper gut, gastric issues, and the lower heart.
The physical body always mirrors the energetic reality of the house. When your mental conceptions, your love affairs, or your stock market speculations are highly active or stressed, where do you feel it?
In your gut.
Exactly. It literally hits you in the gut. Your stomach turns. It raises your blood pressure. The thrill and the anxiety of creation take a direct toll on your cardiovascular and digestive systems.
It is the adrenaline of the gamble. But of course, creation and risk inevitably lead to friction.
Always.
You step out into the world, you gamble on a love affair, you invest your money, you try to create something new, and eventually the bill comes due. Someone is going to oppose you, or your body is going to rebel against the chronic stress of the fifth house.
And that pull of friction drags us right into the challenges of the next phase. We are moving into section 3 of our map, which is obstacles, partnerships, and deep transformation. We're walking into the 6th house.
The 6th house. The notes call this the house of Ripu, which translates directly to enemies.
Enemies, yes.
It is the domain of disease, debt, and opposition. I am just going to read the list of associations here because it paints a very stark picture.
Go ahead.
It governs competition, addiction, open enemies, litigation, divorce, and bad company. It is where the 6 spiritual vices live: kama or lust, krodh or anger, moha or attachment, lobha or greed, mada or pride, and matsarya or jealousy.
It is undoubtedly one of the heaviest rooms in the astrological mansion.
I can see why.
The 6th house is where the naive optimism of the 1st house gets a harsh reality check. It is where you encounter the resistance of the material world.
But it's not entirely doom and gloom, right? Because the notes also say it rules servants, subordinates, being self-made, and the fighting spirit. It's the literal act of falling down and getting back up.
We have to analyze the profound duality present in the 6th house to really understand its purpose. Yes, it brings the disease, but the notes also clearly state it brings the doctor.
Oh.
It brings the litigation and the divorce, but it also brings the lawyer. It brings the open enemy, but it provides you with the fighting spirit and the competitive edge required to overcome them.
So it's the house of problems, but also the house of problem solving.
Exactly. It is the house of service and subordinates, meaning it is where we deal with the gritty, unglamorous realities of maintaining our lives.
Washing the dishes, paying the bills.
Yeah, you can't just dream in the 5th house. You have to do the dirty work of paying your debts and fixing what is broken in the 6th.
Now, there's one hyper-specific detail in the notes for the 6th house that I have to ask you about because it made me laugh out loud when I first read it.
The lactose intolerance.
Yes. Right alongside the 6 profound spiritual vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, the 6th house is associated with lactose intolerance.
It is incredibly specific.
It's wildly specific. And the physical body parts associated with this house are the intestines and the kidneys. Help me make sense of this. How does physical lactose intolerance sit on the exact same shelf as the spiritual vice of jealousy or greed?
Because it is a brilliant, tangible metaphor hidden in plain sight. Let's look at the biology. What do the intestines and the kidneys actually do?
They filter. They process what we've eaten, extract the nutrients, and filter out the waste.
Right. They process the environment we have taken into our bodies. Now, consider the 6 vices: anger, jealousy, greed, pride. What are they?
They're bad habits.
They are spiritual toxins. They are emotional waste products that occur when we interact with enemies, competitors, or bad company.
Oh, I see where this is going.
When we cannot process our external environment properly, when we hold on to anger or attach ourselves to toxic situations, we experience spiritual indigestion.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant.
Lactose intolerance is quite literally the body's inability to digest a specific complex substance because it lacks a certain enzyme.
Right. You literally can't process it.
In the context of the 6th house, if you lack the psychological enzymes to handle conflict, debt, or fierce competition, you become overwhelmed. The toxicity builds up.
So it affects you physically.
Your intestines and kidneys rebel physically, just as your spirit rebels emotionally against the bad company and the 6 vices. The physical indigestion mirrors the spiritual indigestion.
So the 6th house is the ultimate filter of your life. You have to fight your way through it, filtering out the bad company, digesting the harsh realities, paying off your debts, and relying on the doctor or the lawyer to help you clean up the mess when your own filters break down.
And it is a necessary crucible, because if you cannot filter out the toxins of the 6th house, you are not ready for what comes next.
Which brings us to the 7th house. Now, listener, I read the notes on this house, and I literally had to stop, rub my eyes, and reread them to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
The 7th house is traditionally known as the house of the wife, or the spouse. It is about partnerships, managing the house with another person, and it covers the reproductive organs.
Okay, let's look at the exact list of associations from the source material. Marriage, partnerships, name and fame, getting a promotion, a house of death, and kidnapping.
Yes.
I am going to need you to unpack this slowly. How are getting married, getting a promotion, and getting kidnapped conceptually linked in any rational universe?
This is where the architectural genius of the 12 houses really reveals itself. But to understand the 7th house, we have to look across the room at the 1st house. What is the 1st house?
It's the Lanya, the foundation of the self, the singular I.
Correct. It is absolute independence and individual agency. Now, physically, on the astrological wheel, the 7th house sits exactly 180 degrees opposite the 1st house.
Directly across from it.
Therefore, conceptually, If the first house is the ultimate self, the seventh house is the ultimate other.
Okay, I am?
The seventh house represents everything outside of your individual control that binds you, elevates you, or takes you over. Let's look at your list. Think about a marriage.
Okay.
When you get married, you are legally, socially, and spiritually binding yourself to an external force, a partner. Your absolute independence ends.
Right. You have to compromise. You manage the house with another person, as the notes say.
Now think about name, fame, and a promotion. You do not promote yourself. You do not make yourself famous.
Someone else has to do it.
You are being elevated by the public or by a corporation. These are external forces, completely outside your direct control, conferring status upon you. You belong to the public now. You are bound to the title the corporation gave you.
Okay, the loss of agency is the through line. I see it. Now explain the kidnapping.
What is a kidnapping? It is the most extreme, literal manifestation of the seventh house principle.
Being bound by an external force.
It is being taken over, bound, and stripped of your autonomy by an external force against your will.
Oh my goodness. That is chilling.
It is the total submission of the first house to the seventh house, and that is exactly why the seventh house is also considered a house of death.
Because the ego dies.
Because a true partnership, or true fame, requires the death of the singular ego. To exist fully in the seventh house, the absolute untethered independence of the first house must end.
Wow.
Whether it is the public taking ownership of your identity through fame, a spouse merging their life with yours, or the ultimate physical loss of agency in a kidnapping, the seventh house is where the I becomes completely subjected to the other.
That is incredibly profound and honestly slightly terrifying. You surrender the self to the other. You enter into the partnership or you get shoved into the spotlight. Right. But what happens after that surrender? What happens when the ego is shattered by that partnership or when the reality of merging lives sets in? You fall into the eighth house.
Bhava, the house of longevity.
If the seventh house is the act of surrender, the eighth house feels like the dark basement where you have to deal with the consequences of that surrender.
It's the underground.
The notes describe it as the crucible of deep transformation. It represents hidden enemies, obstructions, the occult, tantra, and samadhi, which is the deepest, most intense state of meditative absorption.
It's a realm of extreme intensity. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the eighth house is everything hidden beneath the polite surface of the seventh house partnership.
And the material associations reflect that hidden nature. It governs unearned income, dowry, inheritance, blocked income, and lottery surprises.
And you didn't work for.
Exactly.
Right.
It also dictates the nature of death, chronic and long-term illness, and unexpected accidents. And for females specifically, the text notes it acts as the suhag Bhav, indicating the longevity of married life, conjugal bliss, and the house of the in-laws.
Notice how perfectly that tracks from the seventh house. You get married in the bright light of the seventh house. But the actual complex hidden dynamics of the marriage, dealing with the in-laws, negotiating the joint assets, the dowry, the inheritance.
All the messy stuff behind closed doors.
All of that intense psychological negotiation happens in the shadows of the eighth house. It is money you didn't earn through your own first house effort. It's money that comes to you through death, through marriage, or through sudden, chaotic lottery surprises.
It's sudden, transformative, often destructive energy, and the physical body parts associated here are fascinating. The genes and the excretory parts.
Again, the underground. The genes are the hidden, invisible coding of our ancestral past that completely dictates our physical reality.
The ultimate hidden blueprint.
And the excretory organs represent the ultimate, necessary release of waste, the purging required after deep transformation.
The text also outlines the traits of people who have a heavily dominant eighth house. Spies, unorthodoxy, weak willpower, and addictions.
Because navigating the eighth house requires engaging with the taboo, the hidden, and the intense. Spies operate entirely in the shadows, dealing with hidden enemies and secret information, just like this house.
And the meditative states.
Samadhi, the deep meditative state, and fundamental research both require a person to dive so deeply into a subject that they practically disappear from the normal functioning world.
And if you can't handle that depth,
then the energy overwhelms you. If you lack the profound discipline required to handle that intense, hidden eighth house energy, it manifests as weak willpower and addiction.
you just numb it.
You get swallowed by the dark. It is a house that breaks you down to your fundamental genetic code.
It is the ultimate crucible.
Yeah.
But if you survive it, if you go through the deep transformation, face your hidden enemies, navigate the taboo, and emerge from that underground basement, you don't come out the same person.
You completely changed.
You come out with a completely revolutionized worldview. You are no longer looking down at your debts or hiding in the shadows. You are looking up. You are seeking a higher purpose.
And that transition brings us into the final act of the cosmic journey. Section 4, the higher path. We step out of the darkness and enter the brilliant light of the ninth house.
The ninth house. The texts call this Dharma Bhava and Bhagya Bhava, the house of duty and the house of fortune.
We have moved from the shadowy, hidden depths of the eighth house into the expansive light of higher philosophy. This is the house of the guru, the father, religion, faith, justice, and philanthropy.
I would compare the ninth house to the Supreme Court and the University of Life combined into one.
That's a great analogy.
The third house was about short journeys, running down the street to debate your neighbor. But the ninth house is about long journeys for leisure, long religious pilgrimages, and foreign travel. It's expanding your horizons to the absolute maximum. It's where we seek absolute, capital T, truths.
Notice the profound shift in authority here, too. Back in the fourth house, the ultimate authority was the mother and domestic comfort.
The focus was internal safety.
But here in the ninth house, the authority is the father, his health, and the guru or teacher. It is the external, societal, and moral compass.
The notes mention a very specific symbol for the ninth house, the seal of a gazetted officer, as well as ethics.
A gazetted officer's seal represents institutional, formalized truth. It is the stamp of absolute authority. The ninth house is the formalization of your highest beliefs.
It's setting the rules for society.
But it isn't just about what you think. It is about the ethics and the laws by which society governs itself. And physically, it governs the thighs and the pelvic region.
The biggest bones and muscles in the body.
Exactly. The physiological mechanics are perfectly aligned. The thighs and the pelvis are the engine that propel you forward on those long journeys and pilgrimages.
They give you the foundation to walk the path.
They give you the strength to stand up for your ethics and your faith.
So you've survived the crucible, you've discovered your ethics, you've studied under the guru, taken the long pilgrimage, and earned your degree from the University of Life. But philosophy in a vacuum doesn't change the world.
No, it doesn't.
At some point, you have to put those ethics to work. You have to take action.
And that brings us to the absolute peak of the astrological chart, the 10th house, Karma Bhava, the house of authority.
The notes are very clear here. This governs professions, hard work, royal associations, public image, and fame.
If the fourth house at the bottom of the chart is midnight, deeply internal and hidden, the 10th house is high noon.
Everyone can see you.
It is the sun at its absolute highest point in the sky. It is the physical, visible manifestation of your ninth house ethics. The ninth house is what you believe. The 10th house is what you actually do in the world for everyone to see.
It's the heavy burden of leadership. The notes also link it to relocation to foreign lands, the southern direction, and physically, the knees.
Okay, I understand the thighs for the ninth house pilgrimages, but why the knees for the 10th house of authority?
Think about the physical symbolism and biomechanics of the knees in relation to authority, hard work, and public image. The knees are the crucial joint that allows us to stand tall and project our prominence in the public sphere.
They hold us up. They bear the entire weight of our physical body.
Yeah.
Just as our profession and our public image bear the weight of our ambitions.
But they also bend.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
They are what we bend in reverence to higher authority, or, as the notes say, royal associations. You kneel before the king. You bend your knees in the hard labor of your profession.
Oh, that makes sense.
If your knees give out, your ability to stand prominently in the public sphere completely collapses. You lose your stature.
That is a brilliant anatomical metaphor. So you've stood tall, you've bent the knee when necessary, you've done the grueling hard work of the Karma Bhava and built an undeniable public image. What is the result of all that labor? We move to the 11th house, La Bhava, the house of gains.
Yes. The 11th house is where the harvest is finally reaped. It represents your income and the fulfillment of your hopes, wishes, and desires.
It's the payoff.
But importantly, it is not a solitary house. It represents your broader social circles, your friends, and your general attitude toward humanity.
It also governs the daughter or son-in-law and harmony with others. But listener, here are some incredibly specific, distinctly modern associations from the source text that we really have to talk about.
Okay, let's hear them.
The 11th house governs aviation, big multinational corporations or MNCs, innovations. And the stock market, which the notes specifically point out, is a trait shared with houses 2, 5, and 8.
A fascinating grouping.
So what does this all mean? If the 10th house is the grueling hard work and the public responsibility, is the 11th house basically the paycheck and the giant after party with your social network?
It is the after party, but it is an after party on a massive, almost incomprehensible scale. Validating your point, it is the paycheck.
Yeah.
But the specific inclusion of aviation and multinational corporations is vital to understanding the scale of the 11th house.
Because it's a global scale.
Exactly. The 11th house is about reaching the absolute highest networks, transcending your individual effort. In the 10th house, you're grinding away, building your personal authority.
Doing the hard work yourself.
But when you deal with an MNC, or with aviation, you are plugging into a massive global network that operates entirely independently of your singular effort. A multinational corporation generates wealth through the collective effort of thousands of people across borders.
And aviation literally lifts you above the earth, connecting continents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The 11th house is the collective gain of humanity and the innovations that push society forward.
And the physical associations here are wild. The left ear, the calves, the ankles, and the capillary action of the heart. Capillary action of the heart. That is so hyper-specific for an ancient astrological text.
But again, think about the biological metaphor. What does the capillary action actually do in the circulatory system?
It's the tiny vessels. It's the network that returns the deoxygenated blood back up from the extremities to the heart after it has journeyed through the entire body.
Exactly. It is the return system. Just as the 11th house represents the returns, the gains flowing back to you from the massive, complex network of your social circles and professional efforts.
The blood comes back.
The blood went out, did the hard work, and now the capillary action brings the vital resources back to the center. It is the cosmic return on investment.
The underlying logic of this system is just phenomenal. It maps biology to sociology to spirituality flawlessly. But we have one room left.
We do.
We have received our massive gains. Our hopes and wishes have been fulfilled. We've flown on the airplanes and collected the multinational paychecks. Where do we go when the party is finally over? We step into the 12th house.
Vyabhava, the house of expenses.
The final door. The text paints a picture of complete isolation here. It represents confinement. Hospitals, rehabilitation centers, jails, prisons, and detention. It is the house of seclusion, spiritualism, guru ashrams, and foreign travel.
It is the final dissolution, the end of the cycle.
It is also the bedroom decoration, deep sleep, and dreams. It represents doctors, paternal grandparents, specifically the Dada-Dadi, and ultimately moksha, or spiritual liberation. The body parts associated with this final house are the feet, the soles resting, and the left eye.
Look at the profound symmetry of ending the journey here. We started in the first house, the Longya,
The beginning.
the explosive spark of life, the emergence of the physical self, the optimistic push into the material world. We walked through the accumulation of wealth, the courage of the hands, the comfort of the mother, the intense risks of speculation, the bitter fights with enemies,
The surrender to a partner.
the dark crucible of transformation, the pursuit of high philosophy, the heavy burden of public authority, and the massive global gains. And after all of that, we end up in the 12th house. Dissolution. Surrender.
It's all about letting go, isn't it? Whether it is forced letting go, like being confined to a jail cell or a hospital bed, or a voluntary letting go, like retreating to an ashram, falling into deep sleep, or achieving absolute moksha.
Exactly. Conceptually, deep sleep, imprisonment, and spiritual liberation are all fundamentally the exact same energetic action.
The loss of the self.
It's the dissolution of the ego and the separation from the material world. In the 12th house, you're no longer a CEO. You are no longer a spouse. You are no longer a fighter. You are just a soul in confinement or in liberation.
And the text calls it the house of expenses. But I imagine it's not just talking about buying a fancy car.
No, the expenses of the 12th house aren't just monetary, though hospital bills and foreign travel certainly cost money. It is the expenditure of your earthly karma.
Clearing the balance sheet.
You are emptying your pockets before you leave the cosmic mansion. You cannot take the 11th house gains with you.
That explains the paternal grandparents, the Dada-Dadi. They represent the fading past, the ancestors who have already begun the process of leaving the material plane. And the physical association of the feet and the soles, what about that?
The soles of the feet represent the very last part of our physical body that touches the earth. In the 12th house, you are preparing to lift those soles and finally step off the physical plane entirely.
Wow. We have literally walked you through the entire cosmic real estate. From the moment you walk through the front door of the first house, defining your intellect and the optimism that secures your livelihood.
Right.
Through the kitchens of the second house, gathering wealth and confronting the slow decay of mortality. Reaching out with the courage of your hands and lungs in the third, finding a mother's comfort and the king's steady chair in the fourth.
The wild risks of the fifth.
Yes, taking wild, heart-pounding creative risks with your money or your mantras in the fifth, fighting your debts, your enemies, and your spiritual indigestion in the sixth. Completely merging your identity with a partner or the public in the seventh. Surviving the hidden, agonizing crucible of the eighth.
Expanding horizons in the ninth.
Finding your ultimate truth in the ninth. Bearing the heavy weight of authority on your knees in the 10th. Reaping the global, interconnected rewards in the 11th. And finally, emptying your pockets and surrendering it all to deep sleep and liberation in the 12th.
It is a staggering, humbling framework. It forces us to realize that every single experience we have, no matter how chaotic or trivial it seems in the moment, is part of a much larger, highly organized structure.
And I think that is the perfect place to wrap up this incredibly dense, profound journey, acknowledging how you, the listener, might now look at your own life differently.
Oh, absolutely.
You might look at a random stomachache before a big presentation, or an unexpected inheritance, or even your daily attitude toward humanity as a whole, and see it all categorized into these ancient, dusty rooms.
You start to see the patterns everywhere.
You really do. If these 12 houses truly map out every possible human experience, from our deepest, most profound spiritual liberations to the utterly mundane reality of paying our credit card debts or arguing with a sibling, then maybe our lives aren't a series of random, chaotic events at all.
Maybe they're not.
Maybe we're just walking from room to room in a house we haven't fully explored yet. Which room are you standing in today?
A brilliant question to leave them with.
Keep questioning. Keep exploring the rooms of your own life. And remember, while the diagnostic landscape of our lives might sometimes seem murky and confusing, there just might be a blueprint underneath it all. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.